Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is August the 6th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today is a little bit different for me. I'm coming at you a little bit sooner than usual. The dedicated listeners are going to know. But yeah, no, what wound up happening was I called off today. So, and this is not a planned one. The news came around that the bathrooms at work were going to be shut down. We've had like this ongoing like water main problem, and they keep having to like shut it down. And then like usually though it's not that bad. Like the water flow is like super limited, or it's like maybe cut off for a few hours. But in this situation for today, they had to cut it off for we didn't know for how long. And so I'm like, am I really going to try to go to work? And I'm sure, the people who know me know I'm a person who, hey, I got to use the facilities, all right? And I don't want to have to use a fucking porta potty. And essentially the setup was like there's like a cluster of maybe like, I don't know, 4 porta potties or so up there. And like a little basin to kind of like wash your hands, a little apparatus. I'm sure you've seen them. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. This is an international podcast, whatever. But I was not having it, and you can call me prissy, whatever. But it's like, no, you don't pay me to have to endure these kind of conditions. So no, thank you. I'll just use my PTO. So yeah, that's why I'm chilling at home today, coming at you a little earlier. Let's see here. But food corner for yesterday, I had pasta bolognese with the old red sauce. It was good. It was yummy. Let's see here. I had some the bolillo roll and the bagel for bread. Was there anything else? Oh, and a big salad, of course. It's very classico meal for me to make at the house. Let's see here. There's really nothing else to report. I feel like I'm in a better mood, so there you go. That's good. Don't have a case of the weepies or anything like that. It's nice. Positive. Anyway, so let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll get into some news action. Yeah, sounds good. Ooh, yeah. All right. Our first story comes from the Associated Press. A rocket attack at an Iraqi military base injures U.S. personnel, officials tell Associated Press. Several U.S. personnel were injured in a suspected rocket attack at a military base in Iraq, U.S. defense officials said Monday, in what has been a recent uptick in strikes on American forces by Iranian-backed militias. The attack comes as tensions across the Middle East are spiking following the killings last week of a senior Hezbollah commander in Lebanon and Hamas top political leader in Iran, and suspected Israeli strikes. Both groups are backed by Iran. The U.S. defense official said troops at Al-Assad Air Base were still assessing the injuries and damage, and it appeared that as many as 7 military troops and civilians were injured. Earlier Monday, Iraqi security officials confirmed the attack, but no group has claimed responsibility. The American officials said the U.S. looked into reports of a possible second attack at the base, but determined there had not been another one. So yeah, I mean, this looks like it is in response to, just recent events that, with the whole tit for tat with Israel, them killing the 2 major, the commander, political leader for respective camps or what have you. Granted, it doesn't look like this is the end of it. I have another story that I wanted to cover as well, but even that's kind of just looking like we're just kind of inkling up, kind of ratcheting up. Hold on, just to make sure I got everything I wanted to get out of here. some technical difficulties. Bear with me. Oop, oop. Oh, yeah, we're good. We're going to move on here. The next story comes from Reuters. Israeli sonic booms rattle Lebanese capital after Hezbollah launches drones. So, yeah, this is a story in two parts. Israeli warplanes swoop low over the Lebanese capital, Beirut. So I did get it right. It was Beirut. Hey, the listeners know, but I wasn't sure if I was right or not there. On Tuesday, setting off a series of sonic booms that rattled windows across the city minutes before the head of Lebanon's Hezbollah was set to give an address. The loud booms sent residents rushing to open their windows to prevent the glass from shattering, or standing on their balconies to get a glimpse of the planes flying over. There was no comment from the Israeli military. And I bet there wasn't, because what is the fucking point of that kind of military procedure? Like, that is akin to, like, the bullshit that we, like, get mad at China for doing, like, when they run military drills in, like, Taiwan. It's like, oh, that's so fucked up. Like, you're fucking with the people for no reason. Like, what does this accomplish? And sure enough, our allies are doing the same thing to their, their neighbors. So, I fucking love that. That's cool. I mean, like, what, is there a tactical thing? So, like, oh, the speech is fucked up, but essentially you're just fucking up civilian homes and infrastructure for what? Like, you're potentially, like, I don't know, like, people can get their ears blown out and shit. For what is the reason? That's not defense of fucking hearth and home. Get the fuck out of here. I don't know. I still come back to that shit sometimes, y'all. I'm sorry, but it bothers me. It disturbs me. But in the capital suburbs, a Hezbollah stronghold, members and supporters of the Lebanese armed group had gathered to watch a televised speech by its leader to mark the 1 week anniversary of Israel's killing of a senior military commander. As he began, Saeed Hassan Nasrallah said the sonic booms were intended to provoke those gathered for the memorial. Let's scroll ahead, though. Let's see. Hezbollah earlier on Tuesday said it launched a swarm of attack drones at two military sites near Acre in northern Israel, and also attacked an Israeli military vehicle in another location. The Israeli military said a number of hostile drones were identified crossing from Lebanon, and one was intercepted. Israeli medical officials said 7 people were evacuated to hospital to the south of the coastal city of Naharaya, one in critical condition. And then I wanted to close out here. Let's scroll ahead. Earlier on Tuesday, 4 Hezbollah fighters were killed in a strike on a home in the Lebanese town of Meifudan, nearly 30 kilometers or 19 miles north of the border, medics and a security source said. So just a bit of the update from the Middle East. Sorry, I'm sweating out. My bad. My brain is melting. But let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to talk a little bit of Corpo shit, a little bit of Monopoly shit from Google. From Reuters, actually, the source. Google has an illegal monopoly on search. U.S. judge finds. So this is potentially a big ruling. So let's go ahead and get into it. A U.S. judge ruled on Monday that Google violated antitrust law, spending billions of dollars to create an illegal monopoly and become the world's default search engine. The first big win for federal authorities taking on big tech's market dominance. The ruling paves the way for a second trial to determine potential fixes, possibly including a breakup of Google parent company Alphabet, which would change the landscape of the online advertising world that Google has dominated for years. So, I mean, this is definitely huge, but I think that the upcoming trials to determine the fate of Google and Alphabet, whether or not they're going to be allowed to remain whole or are they going to get split up, is going to be very key. I do agree with the ruling. I mean, I think in any kind of situation where it's very clear and apparent that, like, oh, this company or these, like, what is it, maybe 2 to 3 or so companies that are even working together, clearly are just running a fucking racket on this whole market, whatever it is, and like they have full control over it. That's a monopoly. Like that should be broken up. That should be regulated. That is what we have fucking government regulators fucking for. So I don't know. I like, as much as I like Google in terms of like it just is convenient and like I'm lazy, and so it's like nice that you can just kind of go boop 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 boop, and like now they even have Gemini and it like fucking condenses it. I mean, hey, as long as it's fucking correct, I have no problem. But at the end of the day, you do want competition because it keeps Google like sharper. It keeps them at the best they're gonna be if they're gonna be the top fucking dog. So I'm glad that we're having this kind of conversation, and maybe Google might get broken up, but I mean, we'll see. But let's go ahead and read a little bit further. It is also a green light to aggressive U.S. antitrust enforcers prosecuting big tech, a sector that has been under fire from across the political spectrum. The court reaches the following conclusion: Google is a monopolist, and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. The U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta, Meta, we're going to say Meta, but not like Meta, like Facebook. Washington, D.C. wrote, Google controls about 90% of the online search market and 95% on smartphones. And I mean, it makes sense. Like, you literally, they have, like if you even are on Safari, I'm pretty sure that Google search engine pops up on default, which is crazy. They spent so much money to do that. And essentially, they spent so much money that, like, there's no competitor that can enter the market and even have a shot at competing because they cannot afford it. Like, Google just has so much money, has so much stake in the game. And for Google, I feel like I just want to riff this out, so just bear with me. Like, for Google, they're like, look, essentially what you're saying is, we're the best. We're the best. And what, you're mad? Like, you just want to break us up? You want to hate us because you ain't us? But it's like, no, dude, like, we've established why this isn't okay. You're a monopoly. Like, no one can compete with you. You have oversaturated the market in a way that just no one can exist but you. And I like that they've kind of like made it the focus via the search engine, because I feel like if you try to attack it maybe any other way, it can kind of feel like Jericho. It's a bit too obtuse. But you can see it very dramatically through their bread and butter, which is the search engine. And I mean, this really is going to, like, there's so much money on the line here. I should probably get to that quote because it does like sum it up better than I could via the riff, my favorite method. Let's see. I think here we go. Meta noted that Google had paid $26.3 billion in 2021 alone to ensure that its search engine is the default on smartphones and browsers and to keep its dominant market share. The default is extremely valuable real estate, Meta wrote. Even if a new entrant were positioned from a quality standpoint to bid for a default when an agreement expires, such a firm could compete only if it were prepared to pay partners upwards of billions of dollars in revenue share and make them whole for any revenue shortfalls resulting from the change. He added, Google, of course, recognizes that losing defaults would dramatically impact its bottom line. For instance, Google has projected that losing the Safari default will result in a significant drop in queries and billions of dollars in lost revenue. So they understand that, like, they're willing to pay billions of dollars to make billions of dollars. It's breakage for them in this regard. So it's like, fine, whatever. But they don't want to lose it. So I can understand why they fought so hard to kind of, not lose this suit, and it looks like they have. So overall, I'm happy with it. I think it's good news. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to our last beat, our last story of the day. Ooh, and also, a little bit of a note, stay hydrated. I'm going to take a little bit of a hydration break before we do our last break, because Jesus, I am sweating out. I've also noticed this summer, this is a random ass aside, my sweat, like, it takes, and I mean, this is obviously everyone, but like, I've really just been paying attention to, like, man, it smells different today. It smells like this today. It smells like that to, like another day. It's very, I don't know. I've even done some Google searches on it. It's very odd. I didn't know. I should have just been aware, but I would just always think like, oh, sweat stinky. It always just has the same smell, but of course not. Like, you are what you eat, what you ingest, and bacteria on your skin. There's so much shit to it. And yeah, I Googled that. So yeah, like at the end of the day, bringing it full circle, I do think that Google is fine overall. I don't not want it to exist, but like you can't deny that it's a fucking monopoly. Like goddamn, like yeah, break that shit up if possible. But we'll see. I don't want to sit there and say, oh yeah, they're definitely gonna break it up, and then they actually get to the trial in the future, and it turns out they don't break it up, and like they make some kind of compromise where Google more or less just gets to keep a monopoly. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll keep you posted, of course. Oh my gosh. Ooh-wee. Right. Let's move on to this last break. All right. Our last story comes from The Hill. Harris picks Walz for vice president. Vice President Harris has chosen Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, of course, to be her running mate as she heads toward a November face-off against former President Trump, she announced Tuesday. Actually, I giggled because I had a thought. I was listening to someone like read off an editorial. Actually, it was from Tribal Trap House. About how, like, wouldn't it be super fucking crazy massive if, like, if Harris picked, like, fucking Mitt Romney or something for, like, VP. It's like, dude, that'd be terrible. That'd be such a fucking bad idea. Like, oh my God. People are so dumb. Which is why, like, I hate op-eds. I never fucking want to waste my time reading them unless I'm just in mood for a fucking joke or I want to get fucking mad. Anyway. Let's talk about Tim Walz, or at least more about this from this article. Harris announced her choice for Walz in a post on Instagram and in a text message to supporters, praising his support for middle-class families and his personal history serving in the National Guard and working as a teacher. I share his background both because it's impressive in its own right and because you see in no uncertain terms how it informs his record, Harris wrote on Instagram. But what impressed me most about Tim is his deep commitment to his family. Gwen, Gus, and Hope, she added, referencing Walz's wife and children. Doug and I look forward to working with him and Gwen to build an administration that reflects our shared values. And Doug is her husband. We are going to build a great partnership, Harris wrote. We are going to build a great team. We are going to win this election. Walz, 60, emerged as a dark horse contender for the number 2 slot as chatter over other high-profile names, in particular Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly dominated the early portion of the Veep stakes. Let's see here. Let's keep moving along. I know for this kind of like a little bit of a local thing, but I think a lot of us wanted, was it Andy Beshear from Kentucky? He was kind of whispered in the running as a potential option, but it definitely seemed as we got closer and closer to her picking that he was further and further out of the conversation. But hey, it is what it is. We'll continue. But the Minnesota governor saw his profile rise considerably over the past week. Especially after a viral cable news interview in which he derided some Republicans as weird, a line of attack later adopted by national Democrats, which I really thought was like super perfect, and I think that really helped put him on the map for the conversation for VP, because people just kind of kept running that clip. I even saw like Harris use that kind of phrasing, like the weird thing. And you see a lot on social media right now, and it makes sense because like Republicans have been so fucking weird. They always are. Like bro, why do you want to know what's in people's fucking pants? Like, why do you want to control what's going on in women's bodies? Like, just shit like that alone is so bizarre. And the fact that they want to like have like long ass podcasts and talk about how they're alpha males and carrying the boats and shit, it's just weird. Y'all are strange and bizarre. And I'm glad that like some 60-year-old finally just said, no, you know what? Let's just not even like fucking get really political about about this, just call it what it is. You're weird. It's strange. And then you just have fucking, oh god, JD Vance fucking couches and shit. It just fits the bill, okay? I'm sorry. Anyway. Also, this is a bit of an aside. I said JD Vance, but he apparently in college in Yale, he had a friend who is trans, and they were more or less in the trenches together in the collegiate sense. They had a correspondence back and forth, and essentially now that like JD Vance is rose to become a VP pick, they finally decided to say, hey, I want to come out and like actually like show like these conversations, because it really shows how drastically, how violently you could say you shapeshifted, you changed into the person you are now. Because he used to just be like a kind of conservative that was just more or less moderate. Like he looked like he really was ready to like reach across the aisle and have like these hard conversations and like really talk about like how like there were injustices in the world, and he didn't want to talk about personality politics. But now you just see him now literally doing just that, and that's all he is. So I really enjoyed listening to that. That was something that was on the Daily. Feel free to check that out or whatever. But back to the article. Let's see. His selection concludes a whirlwind 2-week period that saw President Biden, and we already know that, blah, blah, blah. Let's read ahead. I don't care about all this. I'm sorry, we're scrolling ahead. Waltz was also seen by many as a safer choice for Harris thanks to his liberal bona fides and the fact that some of his other contenders had come under fire from certain segments of the left. Shapiro received heavy scrutiny recently over his response to pro-Palestinian protests, in which he was very anti. I'm actually very glad that that Harris didn't pick Shapiro, just because I think that would have been the worst pick. I think it definitely for sure locks you out of Michigan. Maybe I'm wrong there. But both him and Kelly, who I thought was going to be the pick, because I think he has like some kind of military background. Maybe I'm wrong there. And I know he went to space, so that's cool. I think everyone loves people who went to space. I like people who go to space. So that was cool. He also has like a bit of a sentimental story there too with his wife. I think she was like shot and he's like taking care of her and shit. So like there's that. But both seem to have drawn the ire of union leaders. And I think that's a pretty key thing to note. So yeah, I'm glad that Waltz kind of landed where he landed. Once again, if you had asked me what would have been my pick, I would have liked Bashir. I would have liked Bashir. But he seemed out of the running. I like Waltz for at least the fact that he is pro-choice. He's good for abortion, and he's LGBTQ friendly. He's good for that. I feel like that's a terrible way to phrase it, but whatever. He's at least, one of the better picks for it. So I think that's good. Now, granted, that's going to be something that the conservatives, the Republicans are going to attack him for. They're going to call him the radical left. They're already calling him an extremist. They talk about in this article, some spokesperson or something for Trump more or less tries to say that he's a wannabe California pick. And it's like he's trying to shape Minnesota to be the Golden State, which I think is very funny. But yeah, I love hearing what conservatives like West Coast takes and takes on cities. I also love it too because my like wannabe liberal friends wind up adopting these takes, not knowing they're parroting the same fucking rhetoric and thinking that they're fucking based. But hey, we can't change them all. I work with what I got. What can I say? That's where we'll leave it. But I will say I'm happy with the pick. I think it's fine. Y'all already know where I'm voting. If I was going to vote for that goddamn cadaver, Joe Biden, I already did that. I was going to double down there. Yes, I'm going to pick fucking Harris. And do I think her policies are any better? No, they're the goddamn same. They're not different. I know, it sucks. Things are going to still fucking suck. But yeah, that's still my pick. So I don't know. I would love for the fucking dirty campsite progressives, the fucking true leftists, the real ones, to tell me something better to do with my time other than just, don't vote, bro. Don't even waste your time, bro. Vote Mickey Mouse, bro. Because I'm going to just pick, hopefully, a winner. That's what I'm going for, all right? Because that's what I want. I don't want Trump to win for at least that. God damn it, bro. Anyway, that's where I'll leave it. thanks for just hanging out with me today. You know, this is like my only interaction I'm probably going to have today. Maybe I'm going to go to the liquor store and, you know, there's that. But that's not much yapping. So I appreciate you just tuning in and hanging out. But if you'd like to help out, support, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. I shout you at the top of the month. Plug a project if you like. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Hopefully subscribe to the YouTube. Oh my God, I'm so sweaty. I'm getting pruny. That's crazy, y'all. Oh my God. Stay hydrated. Hit the like button, hit the subscription button, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. Hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.